Hello and welcome back to part 8 of building your own server. Right, since we last spoke, I've installed the hard drives as I said I was going to. In this particular case, they go at the front in these hot swappable bays. I'll just show you one of them so you can see how they work. You just basically release that catch, which opens up a lever. And from the lever you can pull out your hard drive. These particular hard drives that I've installed are Seagate Barracudas. They're 1 terabyte each. And I've got 4 identical ones because I'm intending to install a RAID system for this server, and with RAID systems you need to ensure that all hard drives are identical, certainly in size. Right, so yeah, that's the hard drives. Couple of issues also which I've done since we last spoke. I'll just turn the case around, this case is becoming incredibly heavy now with all these additional items installed. Right, as you can see, I've done a bit of cable management since I last showed you the insides. I've zip tied the SATA cables. A bit of a disappointment with the SATA cables actually. The case itself comes with 4 black SATA cables. That's the Corsair case. Unfortunately, that's not enough. I've installed 2 DVD drives up here, and they're both SATAs, which means I've needed to use 2 additional SATA cables. Unfortunately, the ones that I've got are red, because those are the ones which actually came with the motherboard. So consequently, I've had to put 2, just see them, I've had to put 2 red SATA cables off the DVD drives. As I said, it's purely for just aesthetics. It doesn't affect or impede on the functionality at all, but it would have just been nice to have black leads throughout. Corsair would be well aware that 4 leads are not enough. They're offering you 4 swappable bays for the hard drives. They're offering you a further 2 bays down here for additional hard drives, and they're offering you 5 bays up here for additional products. So clearly they know anybody buying this case is potentially going to be using a minimum of 6, possibly even 8 SATA products. And in my case, I've used 6. I could easily see myself using a couple more in the future if I decided to put some additional hard drives down here for backup purposes, such on, so on and so forth. So I just thought I'd just mention that because it was a bit of a shame. Another thing which I've come up against, which has concerned me as I've been putting this case and these additional items together, is the power units, the power cables that came with the Corsair power supply. They weren't long enough. I've had to settle for one which has 4 power connectors on it to feed the 2 DVDs at the top, when really I only needed 2. Consequently, if I was to use all 4 all the way down to here and then take a feed out through a lower grommet hole, run it all the way down and then back into the power supply, it wouldn't be long enough. It just wouldn't be long enough. So really, the cables that come with the Corsair power supply don't actually work if you install anything in the top bays of a Corsair case. And I just think that is so short-sighted. They clearly, when they're selling these power supplies, they're not thinking about the size of the physical dimensions of the cases that they're going in. even though they know themselves how big they are because they're making them now. So clearly Corsair are making power supplies, but they're not talking to the technical people who are involved in making their cases. And I think that's an oversight, and they need to be addressing that. A couple of other things which you need to be aware of is this particular board, motherboard, is SATA 2. However, I purchased SATA 3 hard drives simply because I just felt that it was a retrograde step to get SATA 2 hard drives when, well, for one thing, they actually cost more money, would you believe, because they're not so prevalent now. And the choice isn't as great because everything's moving on to SATA 3. So I bought SATA 3 hard drives, which, as we know, are backward compatible to SATA 2, so I haven't got any concerns about that. But this is a brand new motherboard case. It's only haven't been out on the market that long, and it's only offering SATA 2 technology in the back, where you have these connections. If I show you, you can see those connections there. These are the connections that the hot swappable drive bays fit into at the back. These are all SATA 2s. I'm told by somebody in the know that Corsair are intending to offer an upgrade, so you might be able to buy these connectors rated at SATA 3 at some point in the future. That is their intention, and no doubt they will be developing a case when they update it with SATA 3 technology installed. But at the moment, their case is actually a little bit out of date, which, when you're paying, in my case, nearly $400 for it, is a significant issue, I think. You know. But nevertheless, I just thought I'd share that with you. Other things which, just want to go and putting this back on. This is a bit. Oops. There we are. Right. Anything else I can tell you? Oh gosh, yes, there is. Round the back. Let me just turn this case round. Oh, it is. It must weigh. Oh, getting on for about, I would say at a guess, it's about the weight of an old cathode ray TV. I reckon you're probably talking about 40 kilos maybe. Right. This is something I wanted to share with you. The cable management. Corsair made a big thing about cable management with this case. And they talked about all the various zoning and zones for getting air circulated through the case and back out as quickly as possible without it affecting other components, which for me that was a significant buying feature. That was one of the main reasons why I was tempted to go for this case, because of its cooling capabilities. But I don't feel myself that, if you have a look at the reverse of this case, I don't feel, now I know that might look a bit of a mess compared to some cases, but there's no areas to actually attach it to here. There's no hooks and eyes. There's nothing at all where I can just zip tie to hold it flush. It's all just hanging down. Now they argue that the whole idea of this back section here is that air being blown across these hard drives, bearing in mind there's potentially 6 of them in here, they're going to be blown out this way and then diverted this direction and go back along a channel which is about 1 inch in width. I've got about 1 inch of plane here. In other words, most of these cables virtually are filling this airspace. Now it's going to go straight out the back. Now my problem is, or my concern is, air coming out of here is going to be potentially prevented from going clear easily, because it's got to pass all these cables sticking out, especially when you're going to have cables with terminals on them, simply because, as I said earlier, Corsair don't provide adequate length cables in their power units. Power unit boxes. So I feel that what I'm going to have to do in order to increase airflow is I'm going to have to put a second fan down the bottom. There is an option, there is a place to fit it. A second fan down the bottom here. Not because there's any hard drives to cool, because it's designed, the fan's designed to actually cool the bottom two hard drives. It goes on the bottom of the case. I don't know if you can see. Let me just lower this down for you. There we go. That's a bit better, isn't it? Right, so down here I've got this area. I want to get more air coming out through here, because then maybe that air will push the other air in here out to the back of the case as well. As I said, I'm a little bit concerned about this because I really do think that there's a potential risk of air not actually getting removed anyway. It's just going to cause a bottleneck because of all this cabling. You can't really tell how much of this cable is sticking out. But I mean, you've got a big 24-pin cable here, 24. So I mean, there's an awful lot of wires in that alone. And next to it, you've got the 8-pin cable. Then I've got 2 starters here. I've got 2 power supply cables for running the DVD drives. And then further down here, I've got all the other starters for the hard drives. And the power cable for the hard drives as well. So clearly there's an awful lot of cabling, along with other little bits of cables that I've tucked through these grommets just to keep it tidy. This, by the way, this is the cables for connecting to the motherboard for the on-off switch, the hard drive LEDs, the front panel connectors, things such as the USB, FireWire, audio, etc. And they're all there, and they've all got to be connected to the hard drive in due course. So that in itself is another load of cables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6, 7 of them in total. So there's an awful lot of cables at the back of this case, all trying to, they're all potentially preventing air from getting through this very thin mesh at the back. This row of 3 holes vertically, top to bottom, is the only means of getting air out for those key components. So, as I said, I just thought I'd mention that in passing. So what I'll probably end up doing is end up buying another 120 fan to increase the airflow across the back of the case. And that's about it. So next time you see this project, hopefully it'll have the memory installed and also have an extra 120mm fan installed, and then we'll power it up and see if it works. Okay, see you soon.